If you're like me and you have a ton of just little bits and bobs of random half skeins and, you know, the little balls of yarn that you wind up and you stuff somewhere because you think you're going to use it for something. Yeah, me too. This is a really great project to help you chip away at some of those scraps. These eggs will take about 30 to 45 minutes to complete each. It's a really great way to sort of dip your toe into amigurumi if you're interested in learning how to do that, but otherwise it's just a really fun project. But let's talk about the yarn for a second because you can use pretty much anything you want. I haven't found a yarn that I haven't liked with this pattern. This cotton yarn has the perfect texture for these eggs. They just turn out perfect every single time. There are a ton of different color options, a lot of which are really springy and really pretty for this time of year. This color is called Rose. I've also used Robin Egg, really like this one. And then got one kind of in the works here. This is Ecru. I wanted to see what a variegated yarn would look like because it seems like it would be really cool. So this is Bernat Handicrafter, and this colorway is called Westport. I'm not sure if this colorway is still available. If it is, I will have it linked in the description. But this yarn has kind of short, abrupt color changes. We have sections that are a foot or so. It works up to look like this. So much fun. And another one that comes to mind is Lion Brand Jeans. This is also similar. It's got some white mixed in with some like really rich colors, and I think it'll make a really pretty egg. But those are just a few options. You can use acrylic yarns if you want to. I personally haven't tried that with this pattern, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. Also, some blended with some natural fibers might work too. You'll need a little bit of polyfill stuffing as well, a 4mm crochet hook, and a stitch marker. Wrap the yarn around your fingers like this so that your tail is coming towards you and your working yarn is out in front of you. Run the hook under both, pull that back under the front, and then make a chain. We're not counting that as anything, that's sort of locking everything in place. And then we'll make another chain. Single crochets is the stitch of choice for this pattern, so we're gonna start with 6 single crochets in the ring, and I'm just working over the ring, which is wrapped around my fingers, and then I've got the tail off to the side, and I'm working over the tail too. That's what makes the magic ring work. Then you'll just pull your tail to tighten that up. And that's the first round out of 15 completed. So you can see why these go super quick. Grab your stitch marker. And for the second round, real simple. If I pulled that so tight I can't even get my hook under there. We will single crochet twice in the first stitch. Just mark that first one because we're not going to join, so we need to know which is the first stitch of the round. And we just need 2 single crochets in every stitch for this round. So that'll take our stitch count from 6 to 12. And it's always a good idea to count to make sure that you're on the right track. Earlier, when I was making one of these, I only made 11 stitches and I didn't realize it until later on when I was increasing. So for round number 3, we'll remove that stitch marker, make a single crochet in that stitch, and no increasing on this round. So we just need a single crochet in every stitch. You'll have 12 stitches. And the reason we're doing this is to make the cone shape. So this is technically the top part of the egg and we're working down to the bottom. So this is the end that's a little bit, you know, smaller at the top, bigger at the bottom. Well, when you increase every single round, you'll make kind of a circle, right? It'll be a uniform, even, has a tendency to make a circle. But when you increase every other round, you get more of like a cone sort of shape. And so that's what we're doing with this. So we still have 12 stitches here, and for round 4, we'll increase this time around. So we'll single crochet in the first stitch, put your marker back, and then we'll increase in the next stitch. So when I say increase on the next stitch, we're just putting 2 single crochets in one. It's just a faster way for me to say it. So 2 single crochets followed by 1. So this time we will end up with 18 single crochets at the end of this round. And if you've done everything correctly, your very last stitch should be where you would increase. Now for round 5, we won't increase, we'll just single crochet every stitch for a total of 18 again. And by the way, this pattern is on my website totally free, so you don't have to try to stress out about following along if you're more of a reading patterns kind of person. And there's also a PDF version if that's a little more your speed, if you prefer having copy in hand or saved right to your phone. This tutorial and then this pattern honestly has been around for a little while. I think it's about 5 years old now at this point, but the tutorial is 5 years old now at this point, and it was just kind of due for a refresh, if you know what I mean. All right, so this is what our egg looks like at this point. Not too much to it, but you're sort of getting the idea of the shape and how that's coming together. For round 6, we will increase this time. But this time it'll be every 3rd stitch, whereas we increased every 2nd stitch the last time. So single crochet in your first stitch, replace your marker and make another single crochet, and then make your increase. And repeat. 2 single crochets and increase. So this time around, we will end up with 24 stitches. So we're increasing by 6, which is the same number of stitches we started with. So that's kind of I don't know, a pattern that you see with increasing in the round. If you're increasing in an even manner, then you will increase your stitch count by the same number of stitches that you started with. So knowing that can really help troubleshoot patterns if you end up with a stitch count that's off or weird or something like that. Just a little tidbit there of information for you. Okay, same as before, if you've done everything correctly, your last stitch should be an increase. And now we have kind of a long repeat that's super simple. Remove your marker, single crochet in that next stitch. So rounds 7 through 12 are the same, and it's just 1 single crochet into every stitch. And so we're working on the side portions here of our egg. So the little section in between the increases on this side and the decreases down here, that's what we're working on in this little section. And there's actually a little trick that I like to use to help me keep track of which round I'm on. Normally I would mark the stitch just up at the top like this, but during this section I actually mark the front of the stitch. I'm a big fan of using stitch markers as visual cues to just make my life a little bit easier. Not only are they good for marking stitches, but they're also really good for just pointing out something that needs to be done. You know what I mean? See, this is what I was talking about. So this right here is around 7, 8. I'm working on 9 right now. So I was joking, but also kind of serious when I said that I have little balls of yarn pretty much everywhere, in drawers and in baskets, and it's kind of a problem. I hold on to them because I know that I can use them for something, but then I don't know what to use them for. So instead of throwing them away or just letting them continue to pile up, this year I have a goal for myself to use up as many of those little scrap bits of yarn as I possibly can and create fun little projects like this to use them for. Because I know I'm not the only one who has little bits of yarn everywhere and who holds on to them because they know that they're good for something, right? We know this yarn is good for something. We just don't know exactly what. So my goal is to design as many fun, quick little projects that use, 15 yards or 20 yards or less of yarn so that we can chip away at some of those little bits of yarn that we have, but also make fun projects. These are quick wins, something you can knock out, in a very short amount of time. And those just doing that is a good way to motivate yourself through really big projects. So if you're working on a blanket right now and you're feeling just a little stuck, then finishing a small project, it just gives you so much momentum for your other bigger projects. So I currently have a playlist on the channel that has a few videos that are great for yarn scraps. I'm going to add to that as the year progresses. So if you're like me and you have tons of little bits of yarn that needs to be used up, I will link that in the description below. Something else you'll notice too, as you're working on this, obviously you'll notice it start to sort of taper downward, but it looks bigger at this point than it does when it's actually finished because those decreasing rounds will really pull it together. Actually, it's more situated like this. So see how it kind of looks a little bit big and you might think that you're doing something wrong. You're actually not. Just power through this, and then when you get to those decreasing sections, it'll look a lot better. So now I have my big repeated section completed. I'll move my stitch marker back up here because we're decreasing, so we do need to know what the first stitch of the round is. So this is round 13 we're starting. I've already made my single crochet, the first one of the round. We'll do one more and then we'll decrease. So the decrease that we're doing here is a single crochet 2 together, but we're gonna do something sort of different. It's actually really common in amigurumi projects, but if you haven't tried this invisible version, it's gonna change your life. It really will. So normally when you do a single crochet 2 together in a project, it has a tendency of creating holes that you can actually see. And if you're using a dark color yarn, you can usually see like white polyfill stuffing. So this invisible decrease, insert your hook just through the front loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then do the same in the next stitch. So that next front loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. That back loop that we left with like nothing worked in it, it sort of fills in that space. I don't know, it's kind of like magic. So that's the invisible version of the single crochet 2 together. I use it for every single amigurumi project nowadays. So make a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then you'll decrease again, and that's the repeat for this round. 2 single crochets and then single crochet 2 together. And remember, we had 24 stitches in our previous rounds. We're decreasing in the same manner as we did before, so remove 6 stitches from 24 and you get 18, which is how many stitches you should end up with at the end of this round. How fun would it be to make a ton of these and use them for like Easter egg hunts? I think that would be so cool. I don't think I have it in me to make that many of these at once, but that would be so cute. I would love to see that. If any of you are ambitious enough to make that many eggs, I would like to shake your hand and see your pictures because I think it would be super cute. Okay, so your last 2 stitches should be your decrease for this round. Now, since we don't want to taper this end of the egg too much, we're gonna decrease as well on the next round. So this is round 14 of 15. We're almost there. Make a single crochet in your first stitch and then decrease. Single crochet and decrease. So that's the repeat, super simple, nothing new and different here. But this time we will end up with 12 stitches at the end of the round. And we're almost to the point where we can finish this off, but we do need to stuff it first. It's easier to do it now than it is at the end of the last round because the hole just gets to be a little too small to get your fingers through there. Now, I didn't necessarily mention this, but if I can get it to come through, the tail at the beginning, you don't have to weave that in. Just make your life easy, leave that inside, and just pretend like it's not there. You will need some polyfill stuffing. Now, if you are using Lily, like I am, it holds its shape so incredibly well. You really don't need that much stuffing at all. Now get it to the point where it just has a little bit of structure to it. You can always add more at the end of this last round. So this time around, we are decreasing again, and we'll do so the whole way around. No stitches in between. This round has a tendency of looking not super great, but a lot of it can be hidden in the seam, so don't stress too much if it doesn't look perfect. You can remove your marker, and I do know already that I would like there to be a little more stuffing, so we'll try to work a little bit in there. When I fasten off here, I like to make a slip stitch in that next stitch over, just to sort of correct that jog a little bit, and then trim off 5 or 6 inches or so. You can really go about doing this however you're comfortable. I find that the best way is to sort of make a drawstring closure, and by that I just mean I'm weaving in and out, like back and forth of these stitches, and you don't have to catch every single one. It's really not that big of a deal. The main goal is to get it all the way around at least once. That way when you pull on this, it'll sort of close it up. But you do need to clean this up a little bit to hide the join even better here. And for this, I really just play around with it. I would love to say that there are exact steps and this is an exact science, but it's really not. As I see a little hole or gap that needs to be filled, I'll just work my tail through there, and like right here, this is kind of bubbled over. I don't know. I find that the more you play with it, the better it gets usually. Sometimes if you try a little too hard, it can get carried away and not end up looking good, but for the most part, it's not too bad. When you have a closure that you're happy with, run the needle all the way through, out the other side, and then just trim this off. And it'll stay lost in there forever. So there you have it, super quick and easy, fun little spring project to use up your scrap bits of yarn. I'll have the links to the pattern in the description below. You can view it completely free on my website, or I do have a PDF version available in my shop to buy if you want to support the channel. Happy hooking, and I'll see you in the next one.